What's poppin', everybody? Welcome to episode 90 of the Slip and Weave podcast. A quick recap of a very exciting weekend of fights. The most notable, I want to start with being likely fight of the year between Luis Nery and Azat Hovhannisyan. At 122 pounds, this was just an incredible matchup, an incredible fight. Two guys that, are truly legitimate contenders at the top of their division that in today's boxing climate, if they had wanted to, could have waited out, a bigger name in and around their division, but, made the choice to take the challenging fight against each other to try to really establish, their position in the division and not trying to do it just with popularity and with social media, but by taking the tough fights and really proving yourself. Nery is a extremely dynamic, exciting, skilled fighter. For me, the initial comparison was Arturo Gatti, and I don't want to overstep because Arturo is my favorite fighter of all time, but I think Nery has that combination of boxing skill and he's also, for lack of a better term, got a little bit of a screw loose, and depending on what happens in the fight, he may find himself engaging in a more physical brawl than is necessary or than his skills would or could allow him to, if he relied exclusively on those. And you saw that in the first 5 rounds where he really kind of outboxed Azat and put a bit of a beating on him. The accumulation of the body punishment over the course of those early rounds, by the 6th or 7th, the fight was much more stationary and was becoming the kind of fight that Hovhannisyan would have wanted, a physical, all-out brawl, and the fight was kind of turning in his direction. Then at the end of the 10th, Nery drops him, definitely hurts him very badly. He barely gets through the round, kind of feels him out for that first little chunk of the 11th, and then stops him after hurting him with a combination. I'm a big fan of Luis Nery. I'm not going to lie. I like what he brings. I like the excitement and the passion and the personality that he brings to the ring, coupled with the willingness to get in there with anybody. And when you compare his resume to the rest of the guys at 122 right now, in a lot of ways, he's got one of the better ones. The 2 wins over Shinsuke Yamanaka were somewhat a changing of the guard. Yamanaka was a very long-reigning champion that may not have had the biggest name, but had wins over Victor Chinian, some other notable guys of that era. So beating that guy twice, beating undefeated Carlos Castro after a knockout loss to Brandon Figueroa, and now beating, Hovhannisyan, who's just one of the most tough, rugged guys, maybe in all of boxing. I mean, he's sort of serving as the Ruslan Provodnikov of this moment. And definitely only raises his stock with his performance in this fight. Unless there's a really, really fucking special bang up of a fight sometime this year, this is fight of the year. I mean, it doesn't really get any better than this. And we don't have as many of these kinds of fights as we used to, not because the fighters are incapable of it. We're just not given as many of the matchups that might supply this kind of excitement. So for me going in, and if you watched any of the ITR boxing podcast, during the previous week, I was very high on this fight. I really felt like this is the fight fans fight. And I think it delivered in every sense of the word. I know Nery is now the mandatory to Stephen Fulton, who's the unified champion. I believe he's the mandatory to the WBC belt. Fulton, there's been this rumor that Fulton and Inoue are going to fight, but we don't have a date. We don't have a formal announcement. It's, I guess, yet to be seen if that fight is going to happen immediately. But I think Nery is a fantastic opponent for any of the top guys at this weight class. I think he serves as one of the best opponents available to Stephen Fulton. If he's not going to fight MJ Akhmadaliev, if he's not going to fight Inoue, I think Nery is a very exciting fight. I don't know, because of, like I said, because of that screw that's a little loose, I don't know how he does against the very top at this division. as it stands right now between Inoue, Fulton, Akhmadaliev. There's a couple other guys. I don't think, though, if you're not one of those guys, he's 100% going to beat you. There's no doubt about it. He's that level. It's just, we have to see how he does in those kind of matchups. And the one example we have against Brandon Figueroa, obviously he lost, but he has the quality wins. He has the exciting style. He has the charisma. And I think he's a guy that could very much be a player at 122 pounds. Really quick, just want to touch on Shane Mosley's win over Mario Lozado. This was a decent win. He won essentially every round. Maybe he lost at most a round or two. Lozado was a very game, durable opponent, been in there with a bunch of guys. And I guess with Mosley Jr., man, there's a lot of things to like. I just feel like he gets hit too much. And I've always kind of felt that way. I feel like he gets caught, and it's tough to know if it's a technical thing, if it's a focus thing. He's just always had that quality about him where he gives you these flashes, these pieces of a very great, potentially great fighter. And then there's just these other moments where, he gets hit with shots that he shouldn't, that seem like, a guy of his level could kind of see that coming or whatever. So as much as I've always been a big fan of his, and I really like watching his fights, there is an unpredictability to what he's going to bring and how he's ultimately going to match up with the top of the division. I think at the moment, the fight that makes sense is a fight between him and Edgar Berlanga. And I hope that he gets a fight of that nature because, he basically shuts out Gabe Rosado, and now Gabe Rosado is headlining against Zordo Ramirez, and here Shane Mosley Jr. is on an undercard, which is obviously not justice. We see this in boxing all the time, but this is just a really blaring example of it. I hope that the fact that Shane's won some really good fights in his last couple of fights, I hope that gets him an Edgar Berlanga fight. And despite having very different careers, it does kind of seem like they're two guys who are in a similar spot, that need that validating win that kind of certifies them as a legitimate contender. So solid win for him. The other card I want to bring up is Mauricio Lara stopping Leigh Wood in the 7th round. Leigh Wood, the comeback king. You know him as the guy that went down against Mike Conlon, was clearly losing the fight, comes back and knocks Conlon out in the 12th round. He's the comeback kid, man. He's that guy. He's the guy that you can't count out. And in this instance, Lara just dropped him and hurt him, and his legs weren't there. And Ben Davidson made a judgment call that ultimately, I think, was probably the right decision and prolonged Leigh Wood's career. Mauricio Lara is a vicious puncher. This is not a Mike Conlon. No disrespect to Mike Conlon's power, but Mauricio Lara is probably the best puncher at featherweight right now. So even if there's only 15 seconds left in the round, for a puncher of that caliber, that's kind of all it takes to do some very serious damage if you're not all there. So this is a big win for Mauricio Lara. He was losing the fight. Leigh Wood was actually boxing pretty well. It was a back and forth fight, but Wood was winning the fight on all three judges' scores. But again, Mauricio Lara, with a somewhat crude skill set, is beating these very high level UK fighters. 2 wins over Josh Warrington, or I should say a win over Josh Warrington, and then a technical draw in the rematch in a fight that he was also winning. And now beating Leigh Wood, there is an argument that he's the top guy at featherweight, not on the eye test, not on skill set. There are more skilled guys at featherweight, but as far as the kind of wins he's getting and the way he's getting them, there is an argument that Mauricio Lara is the top guy at 126 pounds. And there's a lot of fun matchups for him to be in, man. He could easily fight the winner of Brandon Figueroa and Mark Magsayo. I think that would be a very exciting fight. I think on a pure entertainment level, a fight between him and Luis Alberto Lopez, that's just a phenomenal fucking matchup that, I hope can get made at some point. They both kind of have earned their spot in legitimate ways. Obviously, Lopez coming off the win over Josh Warrington in his last fight. That's a matchup I would love to see. I think there's a lot of great matchups for Mauricio Lara, and perhaps these guys will rematch. To be honest, I would favor Lara in a rematch again. I just think that his punching power and Leigh Wood's hit ability are going to make it very difficult for Wood to get through 12 without getting really hurt by this guy. So that's just my take. And shout out to Mauricio Lara on another incredible performance. Two guys from that undercard I want to bring up real quick. There is a 6'3" lightweight named Gary Cully with vicious punching power, incredible boxing skills, got a second round knockout of an undefeated opponent. And I think this guy is going to be a force. I've talked about him on this show before. But the combination of his length and his height and his boxing skill and his punching power and his mobility, that's the other thing, is he moves really well. I think on a stylistic level, this is a guy who's a problem for anybody at lightweight, and I look forward to seeing him in bigger matchups. The other is Dalton Smith, another prospect that I've talked about on this show a lot. You know, this was, in my opinion, this was not my favorite performance of his because he was so much more talented and so dominant of the fight, and he never kind of took it up to that next gear. Even, you know, he must have hurt this guy 6-7 times, and he never really put his foot on the gas to get him out of there. But what it was a really comprehensive look at his technical ability, his skill set, the type of puncher he is. He does hit very hard. He's very accurate. He's very precise, and he has that mentality, which I think at a higher level will serve him, where it's tough to shake him out of his game plan. It's tough to get him uncomfortable. It's tough to get him to not do what he's trying to do. He, in a lot of ways, reminds me of a more calculated Carl Frampton. He's got that explosive hand speed, that boxing skill, but I think there's something about him that's even a little bit more precise than Frampton. And I look forward to seeing, you know, how Dalton Smith reacts to an opponent that maybe presses him a little more and brings out more of his skill set and forces him to go into his toolkit. But those are two guys I think that are very much worth watching in the future, and I'm excited about both of them. So that's my recap for the weekend, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode with my guest this week, Shadasia Green. Welcome to episode 90 of the Slip and Weave podcast. I'm here this week with, in my opinion, a breakout star in women's boxing and boxing as a whole, Shadasia Green. Shadasia, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, man. I truly appreciate that. It's a pleasure to join your platform, and thank you for sharing it with me, you know, honestly.
Just do me a favor, for those who maybe haven't seen you before. Just introduce yourself, let the people know who you are, accolades, accomplishments, all that.
My name is Shadasia Green, otherwise known, formerly named by Jake Paul, the Sweet Terminator. I'm 12-0 with 11 knockouts. I'm a WBC silver champion for the super middleweight division in females, and the WBA new continental champion. And I'm also mandated for the WBA and the WBC to fight for the title, to fight for the undisputed world championship at the super middleweight rankings. Formerly before that, I was an all-star basketball player. Spent 4 years at Old Dominion University, but boxing is my career, my life now. So,
did you come to boxing during, before, or after your basketball career?
During. I came to boxing to get in shape for basketball, and I ended up falling in love with it. But my mom forced me to go to college and get my degree, and she told me that when I graduated and brought home the degree, that I could pursue my boxing career if I wanted to.
Talk to me about the nickname, the Sweet Terminator. Give me the story behind that.
So before my first coach, Barry Porter, who's still in my corner, who's an assistant, named me Sweet Action, because of I studied the likes and we studied the likes of Willie Pep, Pernell Whitaker, Sugar Ray Leonard, um, George Foreman, James Toney, and all sorts of sweet looking fighters that really was defensively, technically sound. And that's the way I fought. I mean, I had power, but I had the skills and technique of some of those geniuses, I'd like to say. So he named me Sweet Action. Action fell off. And so as I started making my reign in the pros, I started acquiring a lot of knockouts. So Jake Paul finally got a hold of me and he named me the Terminator. So I begged him like, please don't can I be Sweets the Terminator? He was like, nah, that doesn't ring. So I'm like, please, I need to keep my name. My first coach is gonna probably sue me and get upset, joking, but I said, what about the Sweet Terminator? And he was like, you know what, that works. We can keep that. And that's how the Sweet Terminator was born.
Yeah, I love that nickname. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to ask this because to be honest, the fight on February 4th was the first time I'm seeing you, and I'm a hardcore fan. Where the fuck have you been? I mean, how is somebody as good as you? How am I just finding out?
Um, you know, I was on the USA team with Clarissa Shields, Franchon Crews, Michaela Mayer, Marlene Esperanza, Jenny, Virginia Folks, all those top tier competitors who went to the Olympics and did well. I want to say that I just never caught the mainstream. I want to say that just, some of the promoters really weren't familiar with me. When I was on the USA team, I was heavyweight, so I lost about 50 pounds to compete at the super middleweight division, and it's just been I've just been working under the radar, working really hard so that an opportunity like Saturday, I could come and perform, and I believe I did that. And I can't say I regret any of it. I wish the world would have seen me sooner, but the question is, that probably wasn't in God's plan. Maybe I wouldn't have been ready, but I think I held up to some expectations Saturday. And that was only, I'd say, 50, 60% of what I really can do. Elin brought out some of the best in me. She was, allowed me to be able to showcase my skills a little bit because she brought it to me. She fought like a two-time world champion. I respected her then. I respect her before the fight, and I still respect her now.
It was interesting because I've had an experience like that twice in that room. Once
Mm-hmm.
watching you, where it's a fighter that I've never seen before that is kind of blowing my mind. And the other one that came to mind in that same room, I think this was like 12 years ago, maybe. I was at Mikey Garcia versus Orlando Salido, and
Mm-hmm.
there was an Eastern European guy on the card that nobody could pronounce his name. And they brought him out, and it was Gennady Golovkin. It was Triple G. And I remember
Wow.
watching Triple G. I had never heard of this guy. He's fighting Gabe Rosado. And I'm like, yo, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've never seen anything like this guy. That's how it felt when I was watching you, honestly.
Wow. Wow, that's an honor. I mean, I appreciate that. I appreciate all the fans, whether they're just catching on, whether they're a fan of somebody, hardcore casuals. I appreciate that because you guys make us who we are. If you guys didn't pay attention and critique and be opinionated as much as you are, we wouldn't be able to showcase our skills on such a platform that was desired by the fans. The fans dictate the fights. Honestly, that's what I've noticed. They don't know you. Why do you deserve a shot at the title? We don't want to see you. So and I can see that in the change of two fights. I mean, just 2 fights ago, who wanted to see me and Franchon Crews? I did, but now everybody's like, "Oh my God, you gotta fight this girl!" Like we want to see it. They want to see me with Clarissa Shields. They want to see it. So I'm so grateful for you guys. Whether it's positive, negative, whatever, I'm grateful.
I don't know who would have anything negative right now. Um, As far as the Cederoos fight, like what was that like for you fighting at the Garden? Like, because like you said, 2 fights ago, nobody was calling for that fight, and now it's very, very much in demand. What was that whole experience like?
Well, I knew that she was going to come to fight. Well, that's one thing I did knew. What I did underestimate is her size, that she would be in the ring, and
Oh,
I'm talking about height.
yeah, she real tall.
When I was weighing in and looking at her, I don't know why, but I felt like, okay, she's not that tall. I'm looking right at her eyes. But when I got near and when she was throwing punches, she seemed very much taller. I was very comfortable in the fight. I was very comfortable. Um, I wanted to show off my defensive skills. Uh, I didn't know my power would affect her, but the way that I was throwing my punches and changing it up, changing levels, going to the body, going to the head, it broke her down. And if you really honestly, if you asked me if I was expecting a knockout, no. I was gonna outclass it for 10 rounds. I was at least looking forward to. I expected it to be extremely competitive, but it just goes to show that I really worked my tail off this camp, and I realized that for me, talent is not enough, skill is not enough, because Cederoos was bringing it, and at no point did I feel like she was some easy person or some easy opponent in front of me. But I'm glad that it was her in front of me, honestly.
That's
And
why you make it look easy though, because you know that and you're prepared.
yeah, yeah, and that's what I went in there saying and wanting to happen. Like, look, everybody think this is going to be tough, but I'm gonna make this look easy. And even though the commentators weren't commentating to my fight, I felt like I was winning rounds, but they were so like, Cederoos is coming back from a loss. She wants to shot again. They were missing the art of what I was doing, But that's boxing, and I asked to be judged by my peers and judged by my superiors with Chris Algieri and any other commentator. Of course, I mean they've seen Cederoos before on that level. This is the first time they're seeing me, but after, if you watch behind the bell, what they were saying, like, did Shadasia Green look uncomfortable at any moment? They're like, maybe just a little, but she really fought this fight beautifully, and that's the thing that stands out. So I was okay with it. I was excited. My fans, like, I was really like surprised by my turnout. To I know I have supporters, but the way that my family and friends showed up and made sure that Jersey was in the building, it was an amazing night. It was. I was happy to go back to the room and be victorious that night and come out and watch my icon and um, my mentor Amanda Serrano become undisputed, and watch Alicia Baumgartner, who I'm a fan of, become undisputed, and watch the other women and support Richardson Hitchison versus Juan Bowser. The card as a whole was amazing. It was the best card that I've ever could have been a part of besides Jake Paul.
Nah, it was an awesome card, top to bottom. Out of everybody other than yourself, obviously, what was like the standout performance for you?
I have to say, to see the amount of punches that were thrown in Amanda Serrano, and just to see her sit down. I'm sorry, my cats are just, I got two cat stages. To see her sit,
Let him
I'm a
in.
cat person, and this cat is just, yeah, so
I'll
she's
ask
just,
them a couple fucking questions too.
right, like, for
Give me a
real, like,
break.
she's just, like, doing the most right now. But to see the punch output and the way that Amanda sits down on her punches and to the body and to the head, and then to see Erica Cruz perform the way she did, that had to stand out to me. I can't pick just one. To see Alicia Baumgartner in person, the way she places her punches reminds me of a smaller version, but just maybe even a little bit better. And to see how poised, I was really, really poised, and a lot of people compare it to Richardson Hitchison. I expected that from him. He's a great, 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 phenomenal fighter. Very underrated in my book. So I was a fan of everybody. I really was.
How do you see the rematch that's going to come between Taylor and Serrano playing out? Obviously, that's a very anticipated fight.
Absolutely. I felt like Amanda won the first fight. I could be wrong, but I felt like she won the first fight.
One of these.
And
It's a flip a coin.
flip a coin. It could have went either way, right? But I feel like Amanda adjusts to her opponent as well. And Katie Taylor is a phenomenal fighter, one of the best. And I feel like she'll step up for that challenge and she'll be bigger and stronger because she was strong where she was like, was she for that 126? And she was very small when I was here at weigh in. But for that fight, I mean, what, 130, 135? She'll be bigger, she'll be stronger. And it's going to be an exciting matchup. And I hope the right decision comes out this time, you know? I really do. I'm excited to see it and witness it. And that's just a legendary fight. It will forever be a legendary fight.
It's one of the all-time rivalries at this point. I mean, particular. I mean, I think the poetic thing would be if Amanda won the second one and they did a third one. I guess what I worry about for Amanda is she's had so many fights and so many physical fights. Like that last fight was
Wars.
physical. Like I just wonder how many times you can go to that well. But as of now, she still can.
As of now, she still can, but that goes to show me you know a lot about what you're talking about because wars take it it takes a lot out of you when you keep fighting in wars, toe to toe battles. It does. But I think Amanda has one more in it for sure, maybe two or three. I think that she spent so many years demolishing opponents not on that platform and having to work her way to where she is. I just don't see her letting up on the gas pedal now that she's got a million views and a million people watching, hoping and praying. And so I just see her rising to the occasion, honestly.
I do too. And just because I'm a big fan of hers, I always worry like because you see pressure fighters like that, like somebody like Jarrett Hurd or like Juan Diaz or something, where
Mm-hmm.
they're like unbreakable, but every fight they have is really physical, and then one fight is just like not quite there anymore, just because
Yep,
it accumulates. You know what I mean?
of course. I mean, 8 ounces, no headgear. Um, my fight with Cederoos looked pretty easy to the outside, but that Monday I woke up and I felt like I got hit by a Mack truck. So I compared, like I didn't take a lot of punishment in that fight. It went 6 rounds. I was breathing hard, but imagine what those two fighters felt, or somebody who went 12 rounds, somebody who got headbutted, and somebody who was in that war. I mean, how did they get up Monday morning? Um, it's interesting to see. How did they get up
Especially
Monday
those
morning?
headbutts. When you get
Man,
headbutts like that and you get leaking like that, oof.
uh, it all takes something out of you. When you bleeding, it takes something out of you.
What do you how are you punching like that? I know that might be like a stupid fucking question, but what are you doing to get all these knockouts that you don't necessarily see as much of in women's boxing? Is it your accuracy? Is it how you train? What do you feel like it is?
You know what's crazy? I think that my coach always tells me, like, listen, you're not gonna throw 1,000 punches. You're not gonna throw 150 punches. You're precision. You're accurate. You don't waste no punches, but you're accurate. And I think I've been working on accuracy ever since I started training. Um, Me personally, I think my power is born. I was born with it probably because my grandfather was a powerful puncher. Bobby Paterson, trained with the likes of Marvin Hagler. Could have had a really, really good career, but got caught up in the old school thing and stuff like that. But my mother also is a heavy-handed power puncher too, but just doesn't like to sweat or anything. So if you combine the power with the accuracy, that's a dangerous duel. Um, you got some people who like to get the speed on. I like to catch you when you're coming in and land it right on your jaw. So I mean, that plays a big part.
So you come from like a boxing family?
Just my grandfather. My grandfather and my aunts, they can fight, street fight rather. My mom is really like I've seen her in action, scared the living crap out of me. Even my aunt Linda, who's the elder of the family, my great great grandmother. So I come from a family of women who know how to throw down a little bit. That I just took it and added some format to it. I just took it and added some technical skills, and I just took it and became disciplined with it. And now I'm displaying it on a big, big platform.
So now you've become the mandatory for Franchon Crews-Dezurn. Do you have any sense of when that fight is going to take place?
I'd say late August, September. She has a voluntary defense that she wants to take part in, which is fine. I'll be looking to stay busy and then go into camp for Franchon. I can't wait to get my hands on her if she's victorious. But I definitely I look forward to you know, getting in the ring and achieving my main goal.
Are you able or willing to kind of do what Amanda's done through her career and kind of go to different weight classes for bigger fights? Like, can you get to 160 for Savannah Marshall or Clarissa Shields or some of the various fights in the weight class below you?
Um, for the right amount of money and the platform, yeah, I could eat tuna and salad. You know, if they putting the money on the line, and of course to be up for the task. Clarissa Shields is a great fighter, one of the best female fighters in the world. Savannah Marshall was a big puncher, undefeated up until her loss to Clarissa Shields, but has nothing to offer me. So it would have to make dollars and make sense. Um, but those are befitting challenges. And after I'm victorious, defeating whoever between Franchon and whoever else, I definitely look forward to that.
You're from Paterson, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever train at True Warriors?
Absolutely.
I
True
used to do
Warriors is
that
one
over
of
there.
yeah, it's one of the home base gyms. A lot of amateur fighters fights go down there. Jose and his wife. I used to train there back in my early stages of my career before the USA's. So yeah, I'm very familiar. Sean George is over there now with Big Zane, and we go over there. I'm very familiar with him. They got a really nice gym now. They switched it up a lot, and
When
they're
did
doing
it
a lot
switch
of
up?
amateur. I want to say in the last 2 to 3 years.
Okay, yeah. See, I haven't been over there since the pandemic.
Yeah, they switched it up. I mean, it's nice. It's clean. It always smells good. Doesn't smell like your ordinary gym, and I like that.
You don't like that boxing gym musk?
Well, I smell it every day now, so it gets a little annoying when you're not having a good day in tad bit. You know, coach is yelling at you like, "Damn, this gym's stinking." You're gonna be yelling all in my face. So it's something to get used to. But
Have you bounced around kind of all the gyms in Patterson?
no, no, I stay. I don't even train in Paterson. I train in East Hanover, fitness superstore. So I'm real stickler about where it is that I train. I like to be focused. So I mean, I go to those gyms if we have like a special day for sparring and whatnot and stuff like that. But I'm training out of the fitness superstore where my managers own the facility and they have a private gym in the basement. That's where I do most of my trainings.
That's dope. I just figured I'd ask because I've trained a lot in Patterson in the last like decade or so, and I figured, considering you're from Patterson, you probably know some of the places I'm talking about.
Absolutely, I started at Ike's and Randy's, and before True Warriors was True Warriors, it was Joe Greer's, and then Barry Porter, who's my assistant, had the Fifth Ave Recreation Center gym. And then you have the gym on by the Toledo brothers or and then in Passaic you have Glenn Tapia. So I know all the gyms. I'm I go there when it's like sparring and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm normally at my gym.
Yeah, I was always kind of jealous because I grew up in Rockland in New York, and there wasn't a lot of gyms out there, but I always knew there was a lot of gyms in Jersey. I was just like a little too far away, or I was too young and didn't have a car, or whatever. And I remember I was talking to Jahai Tucker about this. Like a lot of New York fighters have a hard time finding a place to train. And I feel like that's actually less of a problem in Jersey. It seems like boxing culture in Jersey is a little more solid.
Yeah, I'd say, but it's a lot of slim coaches. It's a lot of up and coming coaches who just really started. But like the history of Paterson, New Jersey, like I said, people like Joe Greer, Sean George, he was doing the USA's and he was on the China Olympic team. Terrific Gist is a well-known, renowned trainer who trained Kendall Holt, Marine Shea, Paul Warlock. Um, and Barry Porter is really like old school, who is Kendall Holt's father. So I hope I'm not missing out on any, but it's really like slim to none trainers and that's resilient or that has that background that's been on it because it really matters if you've been on that world championship level.
Well, Shadasia, I really appreciate your time today. I know you've been doing a lot of these, but I really thank you for stopping by. Is there anybody, anything, anywhere that you want to shout out before we wrap this up?
I want to shout you out, man, and appreciate you for giving me your platform and your time. I'm sorry I was a little late. I was hoping you sent me a message because I couldn't find the meeting ID. But I just want to also shout out to all of the fans that are tuning in, and are getting a width of my story, and paying close attention. And I want you guys to keep your eyes open because the best is yet to come from me. So I appreciate you guys.
Well, I really appreciate it. I am going to ask you one more thing, though. During
Yeah.
that press conference, when them young boys started popping off, I felt like your face became like the narrator for what everyone else was thinking. Can you just walk me through that? Because that shit was mad funny.
I mean, honestly, it was what he said was true. So, and I didn't want to disrespect Africa because that's a known fact about Africa that everybody question his power, but you can't question the boy's skills. All right, if he don't got power, he gonna beat the hell out of you for 10, 12 rounds. So I had sparred with Juan Bowser, who has power, and we went back and forth a lot. We've got several sessions in, and I remember sparring him and touching him up just a little bit, and he tried to take my head off. And I always thought he was talented, but he was a strong puncher to me. But then when you look at it, I'm a female compared to what Africa can take. His tolerance is way more better than mine. So I also had watched Africa come and spar a couple of my guys. And what I noticed about this guy is he could be having a tough round. Somebody could be getting the best of him. The normal thing to say is, all right, cool, I'm finished. Take him out, put somebody else in. Not Africa. Africa's like, no, keep him in. I'll get him. Watch me get him. So I knew that Africa was really, really competitive, and I just really didn't want to be in the middle. But it was good for me. It was good for me because it highlighted my power. But at the time, I didn't look at it like that. So you heard me whisper, like, I really don't want to be in the middle of this. Because, I'm a female and there's two guys going to war. So it was crazy, but it was funny. It was cool.
Well, shout out to Richardson Hitchens and John Bowser. Shout out to
I,
you once again. Thank you so much, Adeja.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me, and just have a wonderful day. And I just appreciate you so much for opening your platform for a female fighter like myself.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do this again. All right.
Absolutely.